Distractions. In this module, you will learn about the distraction which can affect the safe driving. Distraction is anything which draws the driver's attention away from driving towards anything else. Distractions, either inside or outside the vehicle, affect the driver's ability to perform the driving task safely. Research has proven that drivers whose attention is diverted away from the driving task for more than 2 seconds at a time are at increased risk of a crash. You can watch in this video.
What are you afraid of missing today? A 2-second glance doubles the risk of crashing. So what are you really missing?
Hi, Jess. The restaurant's booked.
A 2-second glance means you miss what really matters. Everything else can wait.
Therefore, drivers need to focus their full attention on the driving task. To avoid distracted driving, it's good to know the types of driving distractions. There are commonly 3 types of distractions: visual distraction, physical distraction, and cognitive distraction. To learn more about these, you may click to play or skip. Visual distraction. Visual distraction is when the driver takes his eyes off the road. For instance, looking at any scenery or advertisement hoardings outside the vehicle, checking or adjusting GPS, radio frequency or temperature controls, answering phone calls, applying makeup, rubbernecking to an accident. Physical distraction. Physical or manual distraction is when the driver takes his one or both hands off the steering wheel. Some examples include eating or drinking, smoking, adjusting mirrors or other controls while driving, adjusting child's seatbelt, dialing or texting while driving. Cognitive distraction. Cognitive distraction is when the driver takes his mind off the driving. Here are some common cognitive driving distractions: talking to a co-passenger, emotional stress, daydreaming, being under the influence of drugs and/or alcohol, using a mobile phone. It is worth knowing that the brain quickly toggles or switches between the tasks, but cannot do 2 things at the same time. The activity in the area of the brain that processes moving images decreases by up to 1/3 when listening to or talking on the phone. Another type of distraction which is not very common is auditory distraction while driving. Auditory distraction is when sounds prevent drivers from making the best use of their hearing ability for the emergency vehicle sirens or alarms. For example, noisy passenger in the car, listening to loud music, responding to a ringing phone. Distraction. Mobile phone. Any distracted activity can be dangerous, but some activities fall under more than one distracted driving category. These activities are extra dangerous as they tend to take more attention away from the driving. In the fast-paced multitasking world, the use of mobile phone has become very common. It is particularly dangerous because it involves all types of distractions: visually, dialing or receiving the call; physical, holding the mobile phone; cognitive, concentrating on the conversation; auditory, responding to ringing. The study says that even if using hands-free while driving, drivers are 4 times more likely to have a collision when using a mobile phone. The study of Riedelmeier and Tibshirani, 1997. Effects of mobile phone use on driving performance. The use of a mobile phone can impair performance on a number of driving tasks, leading to straddling lanes on a multiple-lane road or veering across the road, driving inconsistently, speeding up or slowing down without reason, having difficulty in maintaining appropriate following distance from vehicles in front, displaying mistakes in judgment and awareness of safe gaps in traffic, reacts slower than usual and increases the chances of collision. The danger of distraction can vary depending on factors like the complexity of the distracting task, duration of distraction, frequency of distraction, the situation on the road. Texting while driving. Texting while driving does not only involve all types of distraction, but the duration and frequency of distraction is also quite high, which makes it one of the most dangerous distracting activities. Texting behind the wheel is a big temptation for teens, but adults like to do it as well. This is the longest eyes of the road distracted driving activities. The study says that text messaging makes a crash up to 23 times more likely. The study of the Virginia Tech Transportation Institute. Motorists who send messages spend some 5 seconds focusing on their phone. If they are traveling at 88 kilometers per hour, this equals driving the length of a football field without looking at the road. This is the same as driving blind for 5 seconds at a time. In this video, you can watch how the texting impairs the driving performance and can lead to serious consequences.
If I get a text, I look at my phone.
It's definitely texting.
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Snapchat. I do Snapchat and drive sometimes.
Like, every time I do it, I think about it. I'm like, why am I doing this? And then I just keep doing it.
So I'd like to, want to introduce you to a friend of ours.
My name's JC. I just really quickly want to have a chat, tell you what happened to me. When I was 21 years old, driving home from my college graduation ceremony, driver on his phone was so distracted, he turned left into the intersection at a red light. Another car, an 18-wheeler, swerved to miss him and hit my family's car. And the resulting collision actually killed both of my parents. I spent 2 months in the hospital fighting for my own life, and then 2 more months in a rehab hospital, learning how to walk again, learning how to speak again, learning how to dress myself and how to feed myself. I live with a partially paralyzed body. I didn't have my daddy to walk me down the aisle when I got married.
I can assure you on my drive home right now, I'm not going to use my phone and drive, and I'm not going to do it when I go to work tomorrow and the next day after that until, it becomes a habit, and that just doesn't happen at all.
I know this is hard. I'm sorry. It's hard for me too, but this is real. You have the power to really actually make a difference and do something about it.
Thank you.
Remember, there are no good reasons for texting while driving. Avoiding the distractions while driving. Although there are several distractions that can take the driver's attention away from the driving, but there are ways to avoid them and drive distraction-free. Make necessary adjustments of mirrors, seat, and steering wheel before starting to drive. Plan your route and adjust GPS, radio, and temperature control system if required. Put phone away and do not use it until parked in a safe place. If feeling anxiety, stress, or distraction, take deep breaths and keep your focus on the road to stay calm. Otherwise, find a safe place to pull over and take a break. Remember, driving distraction-free can be difficult, but it is possible. avoid distractions to arrive at your destination safely. Vision and perception. Vision depends mainly on one sensory organ, the eye. In human visual system, HVS, there are two components, the eye and the perception of the eye's signal. The eye receives physical stimuli in the form of light and sends those stimuli as electrical signals to the brain, which interprets the signals as perception. In other words, eyes don't see images, they see line, shape, and motion. Eyes send these signals to the brain where images are constructed based on pattern recognition. Vision is one of the major senses with which humans perceive the surrounding world. While driving, good vision is very essential for road safety. If the driver cannot see properly, they can't drive safely. Vision allows the driver to position the vehicle, gauge the speed, see potential hazards, and maneuver the vehicle. About 90% of the information used when driving is gathered by the vision. Other senses such as hearing, touch, feel, balance, and smell provide the remaining information. Remember, as the speed increases, the visual field decreases. Visual field. To learn more about visual field, you may click to play or skip. Visual field. Humans have the widest range of vision, largest visual field when stationary. Typically, primary vision is within 10 degrees to 12 degrees of line of sight. But objects can be detected outside of this in the peripheral vision, 90 degrees to the left and right, 60 degrees above, and 70 degrees below the line of sight. This means when stationary, humans can have a 180-degree horizontal visual field and a 130-degree vertical visual field. At speed, however, vision focuses automatically further ahead, and thus the visual field reduces in all directions. At 100 km per hour, the horizontal visual field is only 40 degrees, therefore at 100 km per hour, which is 28 meters per second, an alert driver is not physically capable of seeing, understanding, and making an appropriate response or decision unless the hazards or objects are spaced at least 20 meters apart. Inputs received faster than this leads to information overload, and concentration is diverted from driving to process this additional information. Vision and perception errors. Human vision is mostly attracted to bigger and brighter objects. Mostly drivers, while driving, are looking for cars on the road. If they're not looking for motorcycles, cyclists, or pedestrians, they often won't perceive them. It is possible that the car driver may not see them even though they are present in front of them. If the driver isn't paying attention, his brain doesn't perceive the lines and shapes from his eyes, which cause perception error. The vision and perception errors are very common at intersections, junctions, or when moving from parking or stationary position. In this video, you will see the driver's vision and perception error.
How close does a biker have to be before you see them? Here, here, or here. At a junction, look, then look again.
Remember, a quick glance may not provide the full visual information. Therefore, always take time to look and anticipate the hazards properly on the road. Stopping distance of a vehicle. One aspect of safe driving involves the ability to stop the vehicle readily. The actual distance to stop the vehicle is the distance traveled between seeing a hazard and stopping the vehicle. It is made up of reaction distance and braking distance. Reaction distance. The distance the vehicle travels from the point when the driver realizes they need to brake and they actually start to brake. It has further two components: perception time and reaction time. Perception time. The time driver takes to see the hazard and the brain to realize it is a hazard requiring an immediate reaction. The perception time of an alert driver can be as long as 1/4 to 3/4 of a second. Reaction time. Once the brain realizes danger, the human reaction time is how long the body takes to move the foot from accelerator to brake pedal. The reaction time of an average driver can vary from 1/4 to 3/4 of a second. The driver's reaction distance can be affected by distractions, medication, alcohol, fatigue or tiredness, concentration level, and age, as thinking processes slow down in old age. The perception and reaction time of the driver is highly dependent upon the alertness of the driver. Small changes in perception and reaction time can have a huge effect upon the total stopping distance. If the driver is not active, the perception and reaction time can increase up to 3 to 4 seconds. The 4 seconds at 100 km per hour means the vehicle travels around 111 meters before the brakes are applied. Braking distance. The distance the vehicle travels from the point when the driver starts to press the brake pedal and the vehicle comes to a complete stop. The braking distance is affected by the vehicle, mainly the speed, dimension, weight, brakes, tires, etc. The road, such as slippery, sandy, gradient of road. The weather, like rain, fog, wind, or anything that reduces friction. Speed is one of the main factors of vehicle which increases the stopping distance of the vehicle because stopping distance is directly proportional to the square of the speed of the vehicle. At faster speed, the driver will cover more ground before reacting to a hazard and more distance before the driver brakes to a complete stop. Another important factor that affects the stopping distance of a vehicle is vehicle dimension and weight. The braking distance of a vehicle increases as the mass increases. As road is a common sharing place for all vehicles, therefore it is important for all vehicle drivers to understand the stopping capability of different vehicles. Let's see how the speed, dimension, and weight of different motor vehicles affect the stopping distance of the vehicle. Typical stopping distance for different vehicle categories vary. Light vehicle, motorcycle, heavy vehicles, that is, the bus and truck. To learn more about these, you may click to play or skip. Light vehicle, stopping distance. The approximate total stopping distance of an average light vehicle at different speeds, assuming normal road condition, roadworthy tires, suitable weather condition, fit and alert driver, would be as follows. At 40 km per hour, after observing a hazard, the driver's thinking distance would be approximately 8 meters, whereas the braking distance would be 9 meters. The total stopping distance would be 17 meters. At 60 km per hour, after observing a hazard, the driver's thinking distance would be approximately 12 meters, whereas the braking distance would be 21 meters. The total stopping distance would be 33 meters. At 80 km per hour, after observing a hazard, the driver's thinking distance would be approximately 17 meters, whereas the braking distance would be 38 meters. The total stopping distance would be 55 meters. At 100 km per hour, after observing a hazard, the driver's thinking distance would be approximately 28 meters, whereas the braking distance would be 59 meters. The total stopping distance would be 87 meters. It is nearly the length of a football field. At 120 km per hour, after observing a hazard, the driver's thinking distance would be approximately 42 meters, whereas the braking distance would be 85 meters. The total stopping distance would be 127 meters. Motorcycle, stopping distance. Stopping distance for motorcycles vary a lot as it is influenced by tire pressures, its compound, suspension, brake balance, road surface, weight distribution, road gradient, wind resistance, overall weight and the usage of brake. Moreover, slippery surfaces which include spilled oil or diesel, mud, leaves, gravel, and wet painted road markings increases the stopping distance. Therefore, allow more following distance behind a motorcycle because it can't always stop on a dime. The quickest stops are performed in a straight line using both the front and rear brakes together. For the minimum stopping distance, apply the front brake just a fraction before the rear brake. The approximate total stopping distance of an average motorcycle at different speeds, assuming normal road condition, roadworthy tyres, suitable weather conditions, fit and alert rider, would be as follows. At 40 km per hour, after observing a hazard, the rider's thinking distance would be approximately 8 meters, whereas the braking distance would be 7 meters. The total stopping distance would be 15 meters. At 60 km per hour, after observing a hazard, the rider's thinking distance would be approximately 12 meters, whereas the braking distance would be 18 meters. The total stopping distance would be 30 meters. At 80 km per hour, after observing a hazard, the rider's thinking distance would be approximately 17 meters, whereas the braking distance would be 31 meters. The total stopping distance would be 48 meters. At 100 km per hour, after observing a hazard, the rider's thinking distance would be approximately 28 meters, whereas the braking distance would be 42 meters. The total stopping distance would be 70 meters. At 120 km per hour, after observing a hazard, the rider's thinking distance would be approximately 42 meters, whereas the braking distance would be 50 meters. The total stopping distance would be 92 meters. Heavy vehicle stopping distance. The heavier the vehicle, the more work the brakes must do to stop the vehicle, and the more heat they absorb. However, the brakes, tyres, springs and shock absorbers on heavy vehicles are designed to work best when the vehicle is fully loaded. An empty vehicle, or one with a light load, is very different to handle. It can be noticed when braking, steering and going up hills. Therefore, it is important to adjust the braking if the vehicle is empty. This is not usually the case with buses. It is not as heavy or large as a tractor-trailer. But still the driver must be careful because it works differently depending on the number and distribution of passengers. The approximate total stopping distance of an average heavy vehicle at different speeds, assuming normal road condition, roadworthy tyres, suitable weather conditions, fit and alert driver, would be as follows. At 40 km per hour, after observing a hazard, the driver's thinking distance would be approximately 8 meters, whereas the braking distance would be 27 meters. The total stopping distance would be 35 meters. At 60 km per hour, after observing a hazard, the driver's thinking distance would be approximately 12 meters, whereas the braking distance would be 56 meters. The total stopping distance would be 68 meters. At 80 km per hour, after observing a hazard, the driver's thinking distance would be approximately 17 meters, whereas the braking distance would be 102 meters. The total stopping distance would be 119 meters. At 100 km per hour, after observing a hazard, the driver's thinking distance would be approximately 28 meters, whereas the braking distance would be 145 meters. The total stopping distance would be 173 meters. It is almost the length of 2 football fields, 160 meters total. Remember, hydraulic and air brakes work differently. Air brake takes a little longer to stop compared to hydraulic brakes. The faster someone drives or rides, the longer it will take them to stop, and consequently, more likely they can be involved in a crash. You can watch the speed versus relative risk comparison in this video.
The simple truth about speeding is the faster you go, the longer it takes to stop. Here's a comparison. This is a car travelling at 60 kilometres an hour and braking suddenly. Here's the same car travelling at 67 kilometres an hour and braking at the exact same point. This time, the car hits, still travelling at around 30 kilometres an hour. The difference could be a matter of life or death.
Moreover, the higher the speed over the legal limit, the higher the relative risk of a serious crash. Speed versus relative risk. To learn more about this, you may click to play or skip. Speed versus relative risk. For instance, Consider a scenario of a light vehicle. A driver traveling at 65 km per hour in a 60 km per hour zone is twice as likely to have a serious crash as a driver traveling at the speed limit. Driving at 70 km per hour in a 60 km per hour zone, the driver is more than 4 times as likely to crash. Driving at 75 km per hour in a 60 km per hour zone, the driver is more than 10 times as likely to crash. Driving at 80 km per hour in a 60 km per hour zone, the driver is more than 30 times as likely to crash. Driving at 85 km per hour in a 60 km per hour zone, the driver is more than 60 times as likely to crash. Therefore, it is important not to exceed the legal speed limit of the road. Traffic authorities set the speed limits on the road that are appropriate for the individual road. In the residential areas, normally the limit is 40 km per hour, but a freeway has a limit of 120 km per hour because there should be no one trying to cross it. Drivers must observe the speed limits on all the roads as they may change. You can watch in these clips how the speeding and not maintaining safe distances reduces the reaction time of the drivers and increases the possibility of a severe crash. A classic study found that 90% of all accidents could have been avoided if the driver had reacted just 1 second earlier. To take advantage of the 1 second, drivers should always keep speed down, look far ahead to increase the warning time, move foot early from accelerator. Remember, the lower the speed, it is more likely for the driver to stop easily and safely.